What's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome to the What Up Doe Show. It's your boy Dame D, and I am back with another one. Today, I'm going to be talking about a situation where you have a mother who sent her 7-year-old son, second-year-old second grader son, to school in a dress. And she had the nerve to be upset because the school called her and told her she had to come pick her motherfucking son up. I got it's an actual photo that I'm getting ready to show you guys of the so-called son. I did not think this was real, but this is something that's been going floating all over the internet. It's viral. So I'm going to read out the actual message that the mother put out. And I couldn't believe this. Here we go. And this is what the mother said. She said, I wasn't going to post this, but I am sick and tired of my son getting discriminated against. My 7-year-old son started his new elementary school today. He went to second grade. He was super excited to start the new school because of all the nice things we saw about the school. Well, we were wrong. I got a text today telling me to come and get my son because he's dressed inappropriate. I let my children express themselves. Nothing he has on is inappropriate. There is no law or rule stating that he has to dress a certain way. I am looking into suing the school for discrimination, because this was ridiculous. He is there for education, not to be judged. When he's at school, he's supposed to feel safe. I feel like the girls in the class and his teachers were jealous of him, which is why it was brought to the principal's attention. Okay, so I'm going to go on ahead and address this. This is going to be quick and this is going to be simple. In my opinion, this mother is a disgrace to herself and to her son for her to try to think that, it was appropriate for her to send her 7-year-old second grader to school in a dress. And this is something that we talk about all the time. This is why it's important to have fathers in the house. A father would not allow no bullshit like this to go on, in my opinion. But I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I want to hear your thoughts, your opinion on this situation. Like I said, when I first saw this, I didn't think this was real. I thought this was just some clickbait, but it's been all over the internet. So I want to bring it to you guys' attention. I want to get you guys an opinion. What would you do if your son's mother sent your child to school in a dress? How would you feel and how would you react? Because in a situation like that, I said, that's why it's very important for fathers to be in the house. A dad would not allow no shit like this to happen. He wouldn't allow his 7-year-old second grader to come out of the house like that. I don't know why this mother thought that it was important. I mean, that it was appropriate to send her son to school in a dress. She's literally trying to change the mindset of her son. And then not only that, his classmates around him. You know what I mean? He's influencing his classmates. So at the end of the day, man, I would love to hear you guys start your opinion on this. I think the mother was wrong. She may need some charges, brought upon her, for, sending her son to a dress. It should be what do you call that? Child endangerment. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, for her to think that this was appropriate, so again, I would love to hear you guys and start your opinion on this situation. This is sick, and that's why I say it's important for fathers to be in the house. Dad, you gotta make sure that you do any and everything to make sure you're in a household with your children, because if not, bullshit and things like this can happen. So look, at the end of the day, I would love to hear you guys and start your opinion. It's another one. It's your boy Dame D, and I am out. Peace.